Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. We're off a 1-week hiatus, episode 156. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
From now on, I'm going to need you to call me by my self-appointed nickname, Thriftmaster Dom.
Thriftmaster Dom, all right.
I'm a thrifty mofo.
I would love to be playing a game like Apex Legends and just run to this random dude who destroys me. It's like Thriftmaster Dom. Is this Dom?
And then I steal the change out of your dresser.
Jesus,
fucking thrifty.
Armed robbery, breaking and entering, and also, as always, I'm joined by Jordan.
May the force be with us all.
May the force be with us all. It's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded. Gonna be recording early the next couple of weeks, and we'll be back to normal. But since we've been gone a while, Dom, let us know what you've been playing.
Fellas. Red Dead Redemption 2, it's done. It's done. I finished the entirety of it, the epilogue and all. I've talked about the game a lot, but probably the strongest emotional reaction I've had to a game ever.
That's more than Last of Us? I know you're a big Last of Us
guy. Okay, emotional reaction probably on par with The Last of Us, but like I said before, Red Dead, definitely a better story in any ways you could measure that as far as I'm concerned. Probably not a better game, I guess, but definitely a better story, and the storytelling and the characters, all that shit is just it's God tier in this game. Oh man.
Tier.
The thing that sucks for Last of Us since its release is we've seen Logan and these other forms of media that have kind of done a similar story, so it kind of takes away from that setup. And
we'll talk about it eventually when it gets closer, but because of all that, The Last of Us 2 has has really high expectations, right? And it's going to be tough, I think, for that game to meet its lofty expectations now.
Apparently more of that game was shown at the recent GameStop convention. I didn't even know they're still having those because apparently they're putting everybody out of business and firing all of their employees.
GameStop is currently plummeting towards concrete.
Yeah. So at the end of the game, obviously no spoilers for people who are listening. Two questions for you, Dom. One, did you like the epilogue? And two, who was your favorite non-Arthur character by the end of the game?
Yes, I loved the epilogue. It felt
cool.
It felt good. Obviously, it's a different story, and the pace of everything changes. And I won't say anything more than that, but it's just different. It could very as well be a different game, but I really liked how it did that because at the end of the story, the main story, you're feeling a lot of things, right? So it kind of was nice to continue the epilogue, and that felt like a giant chunk of closure.
They could have separated it as DLC, right? That's the crazy thing is when I played it, I was they could have held this off and then released it later on as DLC, and people wouldn't have blinked an eye.
God fucking forbid Rockstar release some single-player DLC.
God forbid, yeah.
No, I loved it just because, it answered a lot of the questions I had, throughout the game. I don't want to spoil things, but a lot of, the plot questions about, what are they supposed to, what are characters who want to not be in the gang do if they're not in the gang?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not too specific, so I think that's fine, but it kind of answers a lot of that, which are tough answers and not good answers a lot of the time, but I thought it was really good.
Without spoiling anything, does the epilogue bridge into Red Dead Redemption 1?
Yes. Yes.
Don't say anything more. I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
To answer the second question, last time we talked about this, I said John Marston was kind of lame. I was not he was just fine, But by the end of the game, by the end of the epilogue, I was like, okay, I'm 100% in on John Marston.
Hey
I'm
man,
into this
I'm
character.
glad you came around.
Well, that's the funny thing, Dom, is so if you play Red Dead Redemption 1, right, you're like, okay, I like John Marston. He's not the best written character ever, but I like him. Then you start playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and you're like, well, Arthur's just a way better character in terms of writing, his personality, everything. And then you get to that epilogue, and you're like, I don't know. They're both really well done. The epilogue does a lot for John Marston's character from the first game. It's incredible.
And so that's I guess to finish answering your question, I still not besides Arthur. That's tough because Arthur is just oh my god, that's a heck of a character. But I still love Dutch, man. Like that. Just to watch what happens to him and how he deals with things as the story progresses, and it was just so good. The whole game, if you guys have watched through its entirety, Sons of Anarchy is just a way, way better version of that show, and it's Western, obviously, but it does a lot of that same stuff, but just so much better, and especially
I'm glad
with
you
Dutch's
like Days
character.
Gone, Dom.
What's that?
I'm glad you enjoyed Days Gone.
Yeah, right.
The developers of Days Gone wanted nothing more than to hear the words, "It's a better version of Sons of Anarchy."
Yeah. Two questions for you, Don, real quick.
Yep.
About certain specific things that happen in the game. We'll try to avoid spoilers. One, for me, one of the most important scenes in the entire game is when Arthur's sitting on that like carriage thing with that woman, and they have a discussion about death. It's towards the very end of the game. It's near a train station. I'm trying to be not too specific. It's actually a missable thing, so you might not have even seen
Maybe
it.
I didn't.
Yeah,
maybe I didn't do it.
And the second thing is there's a theory going on about Dutch and the Saint Denis incident, and that once that incident occurs, that's where he actually experiences a lot of his changes mentally. So I was wondering how you feel about that.
Maybe a bulk of it was at that incident, but it's definitely, I would definitely not 100%. I mean, there's points. It's a progression, I think, and maybe that was like one of the larger moments where things turned for him. But I think it's smaller moments through, even from the start of the game. I think there's tiny things that you can pick up on, and then as it progresses, it gets you see more and more what's going on.
This isn't too much of a spoiler because I'm not going to say exactly what happens in Saint Denis, but Dutch injures his head. So there's a theory that head injury leads to like hemorrhaging or something with his brain, and that leads him down a path of him kind of losing his sanity and stuff like that.
I disagree entirely, and I wouldn't like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's more. It's not that like.
Well, it's not. It's not that the brain injury causes him to ultimately be the way it is. It's kind of sets him down that track a lot faster, because there's an argument to be made that before that event, he's progressing at a slower rate, but you do see him losing the world he once controlled, and then once that happens, it like the timeline speeds up rapidly in terms of how he acts. So it's interesting. I don't fully believe it, but it's an interesting theory.
Because the consequences of that event, I think, are pretty big and accelerating that timeline. But yeah, his character was great. That's the kind of character that's interesting to me. Charles Smith definitely got cooler as the game went on, and so did Sadie Adler. And then, like I already said, John Marston. Like, they're all so good, man. But yeah, if I had to say, I'd say Dutch.
Hey,
but
I appreciate that, partner.
It just got so good towards the end, and I was just like, just in it. Like, I was just, I played the last, I don't know, it must have been 20 hours within, less than a week. Like, I was just entrenched in that game. I was just so addicted. But I never played the first game.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So now I started to listen to like a couple, our Red Dead 2 spoiler discussion, podcasts and things like that, and then immediately stopped because everyone just, half-handedly or whatever spoils the first game. So I'm like, well, actually, now I really want to go play that first game. Because before I was kind of like, it's not really worth it to go back to a game that, graphically might not hold up that well. But now I'm like, I have to play that shit because I have to see what happens next with John Marston.
Xbox One is the best place to play it.
Yeah, exactly. And because it's so easy to do it, because I have an Xbox One now, like that's excellent. So I'm definitely going down that path. But I don't want anything spoiled for me in the meantime.
Yeah.
Rockstar, where you at? No PC version for either of these games. Isn't that right? No PC for 2?
Not yet. No,
not yet.
Because online has kind of not been great. I doubt if they're even fast tracking that. It'll probably eventually come, but it's not GTA.
That's so fucked up, man. That's a great series. That should be on PC.
I wonder. I would like to take a percentage of people in the world who have played Red Dead Revolver, Red Dead Redemption 1, and Red Dead Redemption 2. Because I'm in that group, and I'm just curious to see how many people who have played the first and second Red Dead Redemption have played Red Dead Revolver.
The only part of that I haven't done is played Revolver, but I've been in the room with friends playing it before.
Yeah, it's not the greatest game ever, but it's a fun multiplayer time. Like, me and my friend would spend hours just with the weird-ass characters in multiplayer, like the pig dynamite guy. So cool.
The pig dynamite!
So that's all I played since we last talked, because that's all that there was in the world.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption. I mean, it's so damn good. I can't. We can go. I mean, we'll have that spoiler discussion one of these days where we can really get into it. But god damn, it's so good.
I'm just glad to have somebody else who like played through it and finished it. Not that there's anything wrong with like, I know obviously Jordan played it and moved past it to other games, but in terms of like online with all of the other people we talked to and from the Kind of Funny community, other people, it's like a lot of people chose the Spider-Man God of War path, and a lot of them just dodged Red Dead for a reason or another. So I'm glad I have somebody else that like I can talk to about the prologue or like certain specific things, you know, because a lot of people that we know in the like the small circle decided not to play it because of like pacing or it just a weird situation, you know.
It is an investment, definitely, and it took like a while. Like, you can start to appreciate, oh, this game is beautiful, the mechanics are, you know, whatever they are, the story seems all right, but it takes a while to get fully into it. You know, and it's a long ass game, so I mean, I get why, you know, a lot of people were, you know, kind of left on it, but I would encourage anyone who is like, you know, maybe up to 10 hours in, wasn't sure and left, I would encourage anyone like that to keep going, and goddamn, it's worth it.
It's not a Ferrari, it's a train. Like, it takes a minute for it to, you know, get going, and once it's going, it's full speed.
And I know that sounds dumb and like and cliche, and people are like, oh yeah, it only takes 10 hours for it to get really good. It's not like for it to get really good, but for you to get invested, and by the time you're done, it just is. I don't know. It's just one of those cases where I think that argument of like, you just push through, and it'll be worth it.
It's just crazy.
I think that argument holds up.
What a year, man! We got Red Dead 2, Spider-Man, and God of War, and those are like three of my favorite games. Like, they're probably my top 50 games of all time, and they all came out within like months of each other. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I played. I do have the new Switch model now. There's not much I can say about it yet, but I switched Joy-Con colors.
Did you?
Why not?
Did you get the trade-in before they like butchered it?
Went bankrupt before GameStop went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they gave me $225 for the old Switch, and then I actually gave them Sekiro too, and they gave me like another $30 for that. So I paid very little for the new Switch.
So you're under the belief that we're not getting any DLC for Sekiro?
Lord, I hope so, because I made a split-second decision on that. But
I'm sticking to it. Yeah.
I mean, there's ways around it. You could certainly play the DLC without having to buy the full game again.
Yeah, they might do a Game of the Year edition too if they were to do DLC one day.
Yeah.
So.
Jordan, what have you been doing? Or sorry, Dom, did you have anything else?
No, that's it. There's a lot coming up, but yeah, obviously we'll save that for the end of the show.
Okay, cool. Jordan, what have you been doing these last couple weeks?
So, first off, Jerrad, I want to give a huge shout out to the comic book Invincible, which I finished.
Oh, nice. I thought you had already finished it.
I had gotten way far into it.
Oh, okay.
And was never really stopped reading it. It was one of those things, there's so many issues, there's 144, where I would kind of just read an issue every now and then to at least kind of keep it going. But recently I've read like the last 40 issues, I would say, and then just a couple days ago I read the entire final arc, which is 12 issues altogether, and it was such a blast and such a great comic. I think it's crazy because it's got to be like, probably outside of Spawn, the biggest non-DC or Marvel superhero that I can possibly think of. And I don't know that you would even call Spawn a superhero, right? So, I think Invincible is really fucking cool. I'd love to see an animated series because there's so many cool things that you could do with that. I know that they are doing live action stuff with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, which if you're going to adapt a comic, those are the guys to go to. But I would say, personally, I think it just lends itself so perfectly to an animated series, as plenty of comic books do, but this one in particular, I could really see something obviously that would be more adult, because as I was funnily reminded throughout reading this, one of Invincible's signatures is guys ramming their hand through another superhero's chest and just pushing all of their guts outside the back hole. It's a pretty gruesome comic, even though it looks like, generally like cheery and kind of cartoony, I guess is the term. But yeah, that final arc is really cool. I won't say anything about it spoiler wise, but I don't know. I feel like, what can I say about Invincible that either I or someone else hasn't already said? But just other than the fact that I really enjoyed it, I will say there were a couple character arcs that I didn't appreciate their ending as much as I would have hoped. But other than that, man, yeah, it's just awesome comic book and superhero comic book. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone, really, as long as there's somebody that's willing to read a comic series that's 144 issues long. So besides that, I did something I never thought I would do, gentlemen. I went back and started playing Need for Speed Payback.
Whoa, the 2016 game?
The 2017.
17, yeah.
Yeah, 2-year cycle.
There's some trivia for you.
Are we planning on talking about Need for Speed Heat announcement, Jerrad?
No.
Okay. So I'll just say real quick on that. It looks like, and from what I've read on the Engadget article that goes a little bit deeper with the developers into mechanics, from what I've read and seen in the trailer, it looks like Need for Speed is definitely going back to being a mix of Need for Speed 2015 and Rivals, my two favorite on this generation, from Ghost. I think that they're taking much more from those games and less from Payback. They've even said that they're cutting out the speed card system, which is probably my biggest issue with Payback, because it's a system that's really seems just built from the ground up with microtransactions in mind. And it is something that, to me, and I think a lot of other fans, really fucked the game up almost entirely. I am glad that I went back and gave it another try, but even without the speed card system, I think the game has plenty of problems that keeps it from reaching the heights, in my opinion, that both 2015 and Rivals got to. So they have also said in Heat that they're taking out this system from Payback, where it's actually one of the things that I also least liked in Burnout Paradise, especially when I played the remaster, which is cars being grouped into kind of like forced to be grouped into like drift, raced, off-road, different categories, right? So
vehicle classes, that's weird.
Right. And in Payback, it is utterly unnecessary, Jerrad, because you're going to these. First of all, it sucks because you have to go to, like, within the world, physical dealerships to buy the cars. So you can't buy the cars from the garage like you always could have before. So you have to drive to a fucking dealership, and the dealerships are for each individual class. They're specialized, but it seems to me that you can buy any one of the cars from that dealership. Basically, all you're doing is locking that car. Well, not even locking that car, because you can get multiple versions of it. But you're that version of that car you are locking to being a drift vehicle.
Oh, okay.
Or being an off-road vehicle, because you can't run a race with a vehicle that is classified as off-road, right? You have to change your car. It won't let you start the race. And so that is being taken out for Heat. That is very good, because that's, as you can imagine, a hindrance in a lot of ways. Besides that, I think that it drives like the modern Need for Speed games. I will say once again something that they're fixing for Heat is they're going back to the 2015 version of the tuning style, which my issue with this is that I think they've been trying to please the fans of the more serious racing games that don't take arcade racers seriously. They treat them as kind of a joke, I guess, because they don't have as much tuning detail and various other mechanics. But I feel like here they, in the last several games, they've been having kind of a difficult time deciding one way or the other. Are they going to go way deeper on the tuning and the minutia of kind of the cars under the hood, or are they going to make it the more simplistic arcade style? So in Payback, it is damn near untranslatable for me, at least. It's not comprehensible, and so it is just difficult to understand, and I've almost kind of given up on it, unfortunately, as far as like I said, the minutia of the tuning goes, which is definitely not something that you want in a car game. But at this point, I'm kind of just enjoying the time that I'm spending with this on a maybe looser or lighter level than I would with the other Need for Speed games, because I really gave up on this game pretty early on, and I don't think that I would have been missing too much if I hadn't come back to the game. But yeah, I'm enjoying myself enough. It is certainly more like a 6 as opposed to an 8.5 like the other two games so far on this generation. So we'll see how Heat does. It's certainly not going to be a day one purchase for me, simply because of the fact that EA has destroyed so many of its series, in my opinion, with the way that they've treated things, and this is one of them. So they're really going to have to prove themselves to me. So.
And you might have to wait a couple of months to see if they inject those microtransactions late. Oh wait,
Jesus
that's Activision.
No, I will say this much, Jared. They specifically mentioned in that Engadget article, the developer says there will be no microtransactions in Need for Speed, not at launch, not ever.
That's great.
So think about that, Jared. He specifically made the point of saying,
not
yeah,
ever.
We know that a lot of times it happens after launch. We're not doing that.
Yeah. It just seems from what even before the game was announced, when we initially talked about them not going to E3 and going to be revealing it later, it just seems like the dev team now is like, no, we just want to make a good Need for Speed game. Like, just let us make a goddamn good Need for Speed game.
Jared, you have no idea how much I want that to be true and how I'm getting hints of it, and I'm like, oh, please, God, please, please, please. Can we make this the case? Can this be the redemption? And I'm just hoping it works out well. I love Need for Speed 2015 because of it's all at night, and you're driving around this cool neon city, and I just put my music on and have a good time. And it looks like, for the most part, maybe not totally nailing it, but for the most part, Heat will be recapturing that essence, even though it does have both day and night. But people are saying, obviously 2015 was all at night, so it didn't have a day-night cycle. For the first time, Payback has like a natural day and night cycle that they've implemented, and apparently it made them have to drop the graphical quality, I guess. And really getting into this game, I can tell, man, because shit looks rough a lot. There is a lot of times where textures are not popping in, they're blurry as all hell, and shit is just looking rough. So I'm hopeful that them pulling out on that day-night cycle being so realistic in Heat will help. So, yeah.
Nice. You want to start the conversation on Control?
Yeah, next and finally, I will speak on Control, which, as you may know, was at this point my most anticipated game. And I know you'll be talking about it as well, Jared, so I won't go too long, but I would say I am 5 to 6 hours in, as a safe bet, and very much enjoying this Remedy game, which is their follow-up to Quantum Break. Has lots of Quantum Break vibes, and is reminding me how much I fucking love that game, which was my favorite game of 2016, as you know. And this game has, for me, it has the potential to be a masterpiece, but it's just not quite getting there. It just has too many things that are kind of clipping its wings. But to me, because I'm such a fan of Remedy, I was such a fan of Quantum Break, and now they're continuing that lineage. And, Jerrad, I think you'll agree with me here. I'm such a fan of the fact that these are fucking superhero games in disguise, is what they are.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
They're not full-on Infamous, where it's like creating their own superhero that is just flying around the city or whatever. Not necessarily flying in Infamous, but you get the point. And in these games, you have superpowers, and yeah, you're just a superhero with a gun. It's a superhero shooter, kind of, is what it is. And I'm really digging that with these couple games. So, with Control, it is a purposefully very weird and kind of far-out, trippy game. And basically you're going into a bureau of the government that deals with paranormal shit, essentially. And you quickly become the director of said bureau and start going through and experiencing all these different things trying to find your brother. That's the gist of it. You're going through all these crazy rooms, fighting this force called the Hiss that has taken over the building, and that's the moment-to-moment gameplay between shooting and superpowers. You get the points, third person. So I would say that the gameplay is obviously the standout here. The shooting and the superpowers are on point, I think, and are very fun, just like they were in Quantum Break. Once you get the hang of them, you can really start rocking and rolling. So I'm really enjoying that stuff. Jerrad, I wonder if you agree with this. My probably biggest gripe on the combat is that when you shoot an enemy, the Hiss have this it's a cool effect. It's like this wavy rainbow effect that like puffs out into the air, right?
Yeah.
And it's really cool and all, but it's like it totally obscures the enemy, and you end up like missing your next few shots, or it's possible that you do, because they're moving around because they got hit by the bullet, and then there's this like puff of rainbow smoke, and it's really difficult to like continue on with your enemy. Have you found that yet? Or
it wasn't an issue early on. I don't want to spoil this for people. You know, like one of the first bosses you come across in the mailroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, that fight with that boss, that's the first time I encountered that, where it's like you were trying to handle so many things at once in terms of shooting people and then handling him, right? That whenever explosions or stuff happen, it would be that weird like ethereal gas stuff. It looks like exactly. When you drop like oil into like oil and water and like mix it up, kind of.
Exactly.
It can be a problem. It hasn't been too much of a problem for me, but then again, I'm only 3 hours in and you're 6 hours in, so maybe as the game goes on, the circumstances around your fights leads it to be more of a problem. So, yeah.
Right. And yeah, the game is mostly gorgeous. I would say it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, dude. The design as far as levels, the level design and the environmental, I would say, design even more so, is just gorgeous. It is so beautiful, the building that you're going through, how it's laid out. I would love to go through some of the rooms in this building in real life, because they just look like architectural masterpieces, essentially. And the way that they show them off is gorgeous as well, so they're well aware of it. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of environmental damage. it's really cool what they're able to do with, chunks of walls flying apart. Like part of your telekinetic powers, you can just like rip a piece of the floor out instead of like having to find something. In another game like Infamous, if you want to charge up your electricity, obviously you have to go find electrical spots. And in this game, you can literally, instead of having to find something to throw at someone, you can just rip a piece out of the floor and just fling it at somebody in a matter of seconds. And it's really great, man. I think the environmental damage is beautiful, but it's also kind of like what we're talking about, Jerrad. It kind of gets in the way sometimes with all the different particle effects that they have going on. As lovely as it is graphically.
The first time I hit a fire extinguisher by accident and that thing explodes and you don't know what the hell's going on. I'll add to a couple things. I don't want to go too long because obviously you're further than me and I want to give more of my impressions next week when I have a little bit more time with it. But everything you said at the beginning of like you loved Quantum Break, you love Remedy, it's basically hitting everything you expected. I'm right there with you on all of that stuff. The destructible environments are cool. Like there's so many objects that you can just like damage. I heard from a tweet, is the only reason it got spoiled for me, that there's like secret rooms in the house too. So whenever I come across like wood paneling or anything, I'm just like attacking it to see if it breaks open. In terms of graphics, it's a very beautiful game. The one thing I will say is when I first started it, there was some texture pop-in issues in rendering with some of the like the photographs in the wall. But that went away. I think it was just for me initially starting the game. But it seems
I've actually had some of those issues where textures, like specifically like signage text on the wall, will come in slowly. The resolution of the texture. I will also say, unfortunately, on my PS4 Pro, the frame rate has been buckling at some points during crazy combat. It is absolutely buckled to the point where it's a little bit unexcusable. And I'm, definitely hoping for a patch on that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I wonder if that's partially due to the fact that Remedy has more experience with the Xbox platform than PlayStation. You know what I mean? Obviously, their last couple of games. Because for me, playing on Xbox, I haven't really had any frame rate issues. So I wonder if that's to do with it. Who knows? The last thing I want to say is that when you first start the game, you're at the entrance of the building, and you go through this little office area, you meet a janitor, and you come around the corner back to the front of the building. And that's the first time you realize, like, what the hell is going on here? Because it's slightly different, and the entrance you initially went through isn't there anymore. So if you go back around the way you came, that wall's closed off. It's like you walk through, and it, like, changes the environment behind you. It's really cool. It was just a cool moment at the beginning of the game to understand what you got yourself into. I'm not as high as... or it's not as big of an issue for me, the environmental stuff exploding and getting in the way. A big thing for me, my biggest knock against it is some of the character animations are a little uncanny valley.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They clearly, coming off of Quantum Break, it's like, okay, that's not where the budget went in this game.
Yeah.
The faces are pretty great, but honestly, like, the way they connect to the body is even a little weird. Like, what is it? Arish is that guy's name? Have you met Arish?
The janitor?
I think it's Arish. No, this guy is...
The only main character I've met is Pope, or whatever, the blonde female that, like, tells you, like, it's after... So, I haven't gotten to the second character yet. Like, the second, like, named character. It's mostly just her, because you get her after the first control point, and then... I ended with the boss we talked about, where it was the first time I ran into stuff getting in the way. It's pretty much it for me. We're gonna be hopping to the news now, and we'll talk about the reviews for it. But I'm really enjoying it. Will it be my game of the year? Maybe. Who knows? But it's met expectations, which is all I could ask for a game. And like you said, Jordan, me and you loved Quantum Break, and I think that game gets a bad rap. And it's another superhero game. We had Spider-Man last year. It got Control now.
Yes. I will say, I don't think it's, I'm far enough into it to know that I don't think I'm gonna be as fond of it as I am Quantum Break. But it's a little rough around the edges, but it is very enjoyable. Definitely, not disappointed. with it being my most anticipated game. Will say that the story's not quite grabbing me as much as I wanted. It's not quite as weird as I had wanted it to go, or maybe it's going to get weirder later, but who knows. It's just it's cool and different and definitely unique, but it's just not quite, wowing me yet. So hopefully we'll get there, but yeah.
The gameplay is very strong though. Like I'm really
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's hop into the news here. So first up, review roundup. So last week or this week as well, we've had a bunch of reviews come out for upcoming games. We're starting to hit the fall season of all of these anticipated games people are waiting to play. For 2 games, it went pretty well. For another game, it's on the lower end, but still about what we might have expected. So for Control, it's currently sitting at an 84 on Metacritic, which is good.
That's very good.
Yeah,
sure.
for me, I assumed at worst it would be low 70s, at best it would be high 80s. I didn't really see a place where this would be like a 90s, like Jordan said, like a what did you call it? Not a classic, but like a what was the word you used at the beginning when you were talking about Control, Jordan? You said you wanted it to be this escaping me. Masterpiece. There you go. I never expected this game to be a masterpiece. Like I always assumed, like at best it would be high 90s. So for it to be high 80s, so for it to be mid 80s is really cool. Next up, Astro.
Do you think the environments are gorgeous?
I like the environments. Yeah, I'm really into architecture. Yeah. Oh, and especially when you unlock, like you save a control point and then like shifts. So cool.
Oh yeah.
One game that I'm surprised they reviewed this well, because like we talked about with Platinum, they're super hit or miss. Astral Chain is currently sitting at an 88 on Metacritic.
Shit, dude. Yeah, I've been following a few of those reviews and I've been like, wow, this shit is apparently great.
Platinum's been doing well recently, man. They might be back on their groove.
Cool thing, because I'm not super into these like action combat type games, the Platinum games. It was recently announced during Gamescom, maybe a little bit before then, that Devil May Cry 5 was coming to Game Pass. I currently have that downloaded, so can't wait to get to that. Because I can get in for free. I don't have to worry about buying Devil May Cry 5, which is really cool.
Man, the most valuable deal in gaming continues to get more valuable.
Exactly. The fact that I have the Ultimate Edition of Gears of War 5 downloading right now, well, not right now as we're recording, but you know what I mean? Really cool.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing, too, that they never talked about that. If you regular Game Pass, you get Gears 5 or the regular version of their exclusives, but the Ultimate Edition is where you get the free Ultimate Edition, if that makes sense. And Ultimate Game Pass is the one that includes PC as well.
Oh boy.
Which
Game Pass games, can you preload them, Jerrad?
You can. They announced today on Twitter you can preload Gears of War 5 today, and it doesn't come out till I think the 6th, and then the second for.
Because I guarantee you, if Sony had some shit like Game Pass, and it was like we're gonna have Uncharted Lost Legacy day 1 on Game Pass, it'd be like, oh great, let me go download it. Nope, you got to download it day 1 on Game Pass.
Yeah. Ugh. What were you gonna say, Dom?
Oh, you were about to say it is all that plus you get Gears 5 4 days early, was it?
Yeah, the 2nd, I think. It's the 6th regular, 2nd early.
So if you're into early shit, I don't know. Some people are against that kind of stuff, but like whatever, 4 days. I mean, play the game early. Why not?
The thing is, if it's a purely multiplayer game, I understand the argument because it's like getting an early start on like the meta or like leveling up and like
kind
that
of like
kind
pay
of
to win.
Yeah, but if it's like Gears of War is obviously both. If it's like I'm primarily a single player guy, so I don't care if people get to play the single player early, and I'm not super into multiplayer, so it's like cool, get it early. I don't care. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, in this case, definitely, I'm like I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I just think it's cool. That's like another incentive for Game Pass. Right?
With Gears of War 2, their multiplayer fan base is so hardcore that the guys that are going to be dominating, it doesn't matter if you get the game 8 days before they do, they're still going to wreck you. Like, it's just it's the way it is.
Yeah, that's not that's closer to a Halo or a game where it's not progression based, the multiplayer, right? I mean, there might be some stuff you can unlock, but it's like you're going into matches and like with predetermined guns and not predetermined, but like whatever's available on that map or whatever. It's not like Fortnite. Call of Duty or Destiny where like you're leveling up your gear and weapons that you take into multiplayer. It's like everyone is on an even field going into a match, if I'm correct. So yeah, you're right. In that case, that doesn't give you much of an advantage.
So unfortunately, the third game didn't get the greatest reviews. Obviously, Control 84, great. Astral Chain 88, awesome. Man of Medan, the reviews dropped the day of us recording this. It's currently sitting at a 73, which is obviously...
I was worried about this one.
Okay.
It's okay. I'm still going to pick it up and play it. From what I've read, my opinion is that a lot of their development time was spent on getting the co-op functionality to work. Obviously, that's a big thing with this game. A big marketing thing is like you can play it with people, and it seems like that took away focus on delivering an enjoyable, scary narrative. A lot of the reviews I've read say that it Until Dawn set expectations for you to have a fun but also scary experience through the game, and Man of Medan doesn't really necessarily deliver that fully. So it just seems like they were juggling too many things, whereas with like Until Dawn, they could focus on that specific game. And with this, and now that they're independent, they probably want to have more marketing spins on the game to be able to get into the hands of people. So yeah, unfortunately, the first one in the Dark Pictures anthology isn't a stinker. 73 is still a good score, but with Until Dawn, we expect better, right?
So I have some good opinions on this, which is rare. Usually I'm like neutral and boring, but so yeah, from the reviews I've read so far, it's just what you're saying. If you play this by yourself, it's kind of lackluster. It seems like the game was catered and developed more for the idea of playing with someone else or someone's else, right? In which it's more fun. So, and I'm thinking back to Until Dawn, and a lot of the people who talked about the game, especially those who have platforms, all mention like, yeah, I played this with my significant other or my some friends, and we played it together. Like one person had the controller, but it was a group experience, or multiple person experience, right? But I wonder if the reality, that seems to be like the opposite now, or at least people reviewing this game are all reviewed it, by themselves. So the review scores aren't necessarily going to be indicative of what they were going for as a co-op game, I guess.
But also game design, passive co-op is different than active co-op, right? Like designing a game from the base for me and you to play at the same time with each other is different than me playing and you backseating and we are going through it together. So I don't know if they made this decision on purpose. They had a point to try this out. So maybe it is that they heard so many people talking about playing with one another. They're like, well, what if we make it co-op? And maybe from this they learn that like they lean back out of it. Hopefully.
That's what I'm guessing is they heard how everyone experienced Until Dawn and said, oh well, let's just make it even more of that kind of a thing and like design it around the idea that it's going to be with multiple people. Add controllers instead of just one person. Like, and that may slightly may have backfired, I guess, or I don't know. We'll see. This is an anthology too, so who knows if they'll stick with this mentality through the next few games here.
Also, it's only a $30 game, so that helps it out. Good because if it was $60, it'd be dead in the water, which would suck for it. But I could also see this coming to Game Pass too. This seems like a perfect game to come to Game Pass a couple of months after its release, which would be great.
Definitely.
Next up, this is more of a rumory thing based on actual evidence. Blizzard Nintendo licensed Switch case was listed early. People saw it and it was online. It was like a black, I don't know if either of you saw it. It was a black with orange accents, and the zipper that you zip up the case with was actually two little Joy-Cons. It's actually a pretty cool designed case for the Switch.
Cute.
It was removed because it wasn't supposed to be up. So this has led to speculation
Gotta take it down.
This has led to speculation of an Overwatch port reveal. That's everyone's assuming that we're going to get another Nintendo Direct in September. They've been doing it the last couple of years, so there's no reason to believe otherwise. So people think that this may have spoiled that Overwatch port reveal for the Switch. And to this, kind of piggybacking on it, since this, there have been a lot of rumblings of Nintendo announcing the next Smash DLC character, and it's a female. So in congruence with this, people think that we might see Tracer come to Smash, which would be interesting.
Tracer.
Man,
I'm already Tracer.
It's funny too because them taking it down, I think, says a lot to the credibility. If they would have left it up, it probably wouldn't be, it wouldn't be as like of a sure thing to me at least. But the fact that they took it down, like, that port's coming. And
sorry, I didn't mention this. I said it was Blizzard Nintendo license. So you're probably like, yeah, it's a Blizzard case. Who cares? They have Diablo on it. It was an Overwatch case. Like, it had the Overwatch logo on it. So just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. It wasn't like a just orange and black case. It's like, oh, these are the colors of Overwatch. Maybe it's that. It had the Overwatch logo on it. So, nothing much to report there. Obviously, we'll wait and see. I hope we get a Nintendo Direct. We don't really know a lot about Nintendo's 2020. Obviously, we know Animal Crossing, and that's pretty much it. I'm racking my brain. We hope to see the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, but that won't release next year, most likely.
I think so.
If we're lucky, Jordan, Super Mario Odyssey 2, since we didn't get any major DLC. I'm holding out hope. Who knows?
That would be stellar.
I think if that game exists, it's probably farther along than Breath of the Wild 2. I would assume, but who knows? Lastly, this is something we didn't cover because we didn't do a podcast last week, but Sony PlayStation acquired Insomniac Games. And in addition to this, we can talk about that acquisition briefly after I mention this, but the day of recording this, August 28th, PlayStation announced Marvel's Spider-Man Game of the Year, which is $40. It's available immediately on digital storefronts and retail. It comes with all of the DLC from the game. There was some hubbub because it's just, you have to still download the DLC. The DLC doesn't come on the disc. And people are like, oh, why did they just repackaging the old disc or whatever? But further investigations have shown that the Spider-Man game takes up most of the Blu-ray capacity on the disc. So even if they wanted to reprint the discs with the DLC, they couldn't because it's already practically full. So
I mean, gonna have to download
2 discs.
A game update anyways. So
exactly, yeah.
chill.
Yeah. With the PlayStation acquisition, we can all give our brief thoughts on it before we move on to the topic, which is the July MPDs. For me, it wasn't a shock. I think it's great for PlayStation. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a shock to me. I'm like, okay, this is something we assumed would likely happen. I think it's good for Insomniac. In one way, it's obviously not good because people want Sunset Overdrive 2, which we found out they actually own. Microsoft doesn't own the Sunset Overdrive IP.
So it's not a bad thing, Jerrad. Actually, since you mentioned it, it's a good thing for a Sunset Overdrive sequel, and that is what I'm most hyped about on this situation.
I guess.
What are you talking about?
I guess I would say it's bad for people who played Sunset Overdrive 1 on Xbox and won't be able to experience a sequel unless they buy the PlayStation.
Dom, there is no way that another Sunset Overdrive was ever going to come out unless they were bought out by.
They were funded, yeah.
Yeah, but I would say it'd be more likely had Xbox bought Insomniac, then you probably see the next Sunset.
Because I think that the sequel would already be out by now if that were the case.
I just don't think maybe this is better than had it not happened for Sunset 2, but I still don't think you see Sunset 2.
I'm gonna give you a hot take. Obviously they're doing Spider-Man 2 and then probably Spider-Man 3, right? We all agree on that. But
they're
in
doing
between
Spider-Man 2 and they're doing Ratchet and Clank 2.
Yeah.
See, I would think there's as much of a chance of Ratchet and Clank 2 happening after Spider-Man 2 as Sunset Overdrive 2, in my opinion.
I think it'll be before Spider-Man 2 because you have 2 different teams on 2 sides of the country.
You're right. Yeah.
So
I'll give you a hot take too, Jerrad. Well, this is a good thing probably, for PlayStation, especially long term. I'm gonna say it was a bit of a what am I thinking? Bobble, because had they bought Insomniac before Spider-Man came out, it probably would have been a way cheaper acquisition. But after the studio that just blew the doors off this game and sold a shit ton, they became a lot more valuable.
And they also had a lot more negotiating room when they can say we have the best-selling PlayStation 4 exclusive.
Yes and no, because any other studio, I would say yes. But Sony's been courting Insomniac for years. And by years, I mean since the PS2.
And Ted Price was like, we ain't having it, but then he slowly over time.
They were only going to get Insomniac in this exact situation of circumstances. It wasn't just like, hey, maybe we'll buy you someday. Yeah, that'd be cool or whatever. No, it's like they've been trying and it hasn't been working up until now. So it was for this specific studio in Sony, it was like perfect storm kind of.
So maybe Bobble might. I mean, that's assuming a lot because they have been trying probably to buy them already. But it would have been better if they could have struck a deal before. I'm thinking for a cheaper price because. After that, Spider-Man was the best-selling game.
Well, Ted Price.
What am I thinking?
Never call him cheap.
And to both of your points, that kind of works with what both of you are saying is that once Sony saw how well this game sold, because they knew that Spider-Man was going to sell, but it sold like astronomically well and it was a great game. They're like, okay, let's just back the Brinks truck up. Let's like get these guys finally, because we've been trying for so long. Just do it already.
Could go that way.
That's the thing,
more,
Dom.
yeah.
I think Spider-Man might have been the wake-up call to Sony to be like, hey, spend the fucking money.
Yeah.
Just give them what they need. Whatever Ted Price wants, you give it to that man, because you've been waiting long enough. It's time to seal the fucking deal.
And here's
just to get them off the market, right?
Exactly.
Of publishing another game with Microsoft or anyone else.
Well, that's the thing too.
No
Is
more
like, what if
Sunset
they only
Overdrives
had a
out there
2-game
on
Spider-Man deal with PlayStation, and Microsoft's like, man, this Spider-Man game is incredible. The moment they become free, we're gonna, because we've seen Microsoft put back the Brinks truck for studios, so Spider-Man did a lot for Insomniac Games in terms of people wanting to give them more money, so it's good for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I think this makes them pound for pound. Now, hear me out. I know I joke about Sucker Punch being Sony's best internal studio, but I gotta say, I think pound for pound, they seriously actually do beat out Naughty Dog, simply because of their VR. They are not only masters of third-person action with interesting stories and engaging cutscenes.
You talking Insomniac?
Beautiful stuff. Yeah. Like
Okay.
they have the AAA, incredible story, just like in Naughty Dog does with their Spider-Man game. They have the incredible Ratchet and Clank, but they're also like really well versed in a lot of VR games too.
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, Sony just got stronger because of this acquisition. Like, Insomniac's a great studio.
They are one of the best in the world, if not, like I say, maybe pound for pound the best, in my opinion.
Yeah. Before we close out, let's get into these July MPDs. Nothing too crazy, so we're going to go over those. And if you guys have anything to say in regards to the information, just let me know. So this comes away with Matt Piscatella, obviously the MPD guy over at Twitter, at Matt Piscatella. Go follow him. He always tweets out some really interesting stuff from the business side of the industry. So, the top 5 selling games for July. Number 5, Minecraft. Number 4, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Number 3, Super Mario Maker 2. Number 2, Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Good on you, Nintendo. And number 1, Madden NFL 20. And if you're asking yourself, Jared, that's weird. Madden released on August 2nd. Remember earlier when we talked about paying more for early advances of a game?
Wow.
That's exactly why Madden ended up on this.
Damn.
Because everybody got to play it at the end of July instead of August 2nd. So, and think about that. That was just those. That was their number 1 solely based on the people who paid to play it early. That's crazy.
Ooh, good. I think I know the answer, but good question. So, that guy, Imran Khan, who just joined Kinda Funny, right? Had this good anecdote about pre-orders for games, counting towards the financials of the quarter that they were pre-ordered in, right? I don't think that they would count towards the MPD of the quarter they were made in, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't make sense. That they have to count towards when the game
I think
is
there's
actually shipped to the
sell-throughs.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to throw that out there as a thing.
It's a good question, though.
Cancel your pre-order up until the last second.
Yeah, so they can't really mark it as revenue, right? So, top 5 games for 2019 year-to-date. Number 5, RE2 Remake, holding on strong. Will get bumped, obviously, as this fall comes along. Number 4, Anthem. Number 3, Division 2. Speaking of holding strong, number 2, Kingdom Hearts 3. And still number 1, Mortal Kombat 11. The one note here is that Madden immediately became number 8 for the year, with those 3 days or whatever. The notes here. There's some crazy notes for what happened in July. So, this first one isn't the crazy one. Nintendo Switch was once again the best-selling hardware for July. Still number 1, 2019. Obviously, we've talked about it. Next gen's coming along. People are going to buy a Switch over PS4 or Xbox One that they already own. MK11, which is still year-to-date the number 1 game, is now the 5th best-selling fighting game ever. And it's only second in the franchise to Mortal Kombat X, which means that Mortal Kombat has 2 of the 5 best-selling fighting games of all time. And you would assume maybe MK11 can make a push, passing both its own franchise sales best and moving higher into the best fighting games of all time. Next up, this one's for you, Jordan, since you bought and have been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. It has instantly become the second best-selling game in the franchise, and it only sits behind Fire Emblem Awakening. So,
I'm glad you mentioned it because I didn't have time to talk about it earlier, but I'll tell you what, Jerrad, it's been pissing me off recently because they'll do these fucking battles, right, where you get your fucking objective and you set your shit up and you go into battle and you're halfway through the fucking battle and then it switches the objective on you, totally changes the entire battle, and I'm ranting, but I'm pissed off at Fire Emblem. And that's the truth.
This is the most surprising to me. You know how we talk about how Call of Duty sells the best every year except for when a Rockstar game comes out, right? It's like clockwork. Call of Duty is going to sell the best. It has for the last 15 years.
To be debated.
What do you mean?
Is that what TBD stands for?
No, but I just am putting in my dissent that Black Ops 4 still outsold Red Dead 2 in the years they came out.
So for the 20th straight year, Madden NFL is the top-selling game of the month it released.
Wow.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah, that is insane. Obviously, remember NPD reflects U.S. sales. The National Football League in American football is the biggest sport in the country, so it would make sense that whenever and it's the only game on the market, right, because it has the exclusivity deal, so obviously it doesn't sell incredibly well.
It'd be really interesting to see what the Madden scene is like outside of America.
Europe, specifically England, is really big into Madden.
Yeah.
And the reason I know this is because I have a couple of friends from Bristol. I'm not going to attempt a Bristolian accent.
Couple of mates from Bristol, eh?
But knowing them, they have talked about how, obviously, the NFL isn't as big there as it is here. Soccer is the number one sport there, but there's more people than you would expect that buy Madden and cheer on NFL teams than you would assume. So,
then FIFA,
and then obviously Mexico has a decent contingent of people who enjoy the NFL. So,
Mexico.
Oh, you must be right, and that explains why there's always an NFL game in London each year.
You must be right.
I must be right. Thank you.
Not that I needed the proof. I believe you, but
no, that's actually a great point, though, Dom.
Yeah, there's actually been rumors of them expanding to get a team in London and a team in Canada. So.
Wow. I mean, American sports have always kind of dabbled in Canada, but it's weird to think about London. I was just going to draw that to... Don't they do MLB games in Japan?
Yeah.
Such big MLB fans?
Yeah.
Or just baseball fans?
And the NBA is, huge in China. Incredibly huge.
China?
Yao Ming helped with that, and then Jeremy Lin a couple of years ago also helped with that as well. I guess we can close out with what we're going to be playing. For me, Control, obviously. That's pretty much it. It's going to be my focus. And, what about you guys?
I'm going to finally get around to Cadence of Hyrule.
Oh, nice.
Crypt of the Necro
Cadence of Hyrule.
Switcher Dancer.
Have you owned it and just been waiting to play it, or did you recently just purchase it?
For 2 weeks I've had it, and I haven't touched it yet, so...
That Red Dead, man. That addiction.
Yeah, that Red Dead.
He was waiting for the right beat, man.
So I'm pretty excited. Right, nice.
You got to play
with that.
You got to play games at the right tempo. Can't rush yourself.
Yeah, keep your rhythm. Also, this weekend we're gonna play Man of Medan. I'm pretty pumped about that.
We, as in you and your wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do that together. I feel like there was
me, myself, and I.
Thought there might have been one more thing, and I can't think of it. Oh, Gears. I don't know if I'll play Gears by the time we talk next. If I do, it won't be for very long, so I'll just hold off.
Okay. And Jordan?
No interest in Control, though?
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, but that's No, I mean...
You're not convincing me, kid.
Because, I'm going to be playing Gears next, in a week, right? So, that's next. And then after that, it's Outer Worlds, and then I'm into Fallen Order.
Is there any Borderlands 3 hype outside of me, myself, and I?
Not for me.
Okay.
I am into Control though. I mean, I like what you guys have said about it. It's gonna be more like a, when it's on sale type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Thriftmaster Dom, like I said.
You're really pushing it, aren't you?
Man, all right. Gears 5 and Outer Worlds on Game Pass. Thriftmaster Dom. Jedi Fallen Order, like
Exhibit A.
$50 on Amazon, $10 yeah, Thriftmaster Dom. Let's go.
Jordan, outside of Control, anything else?
We'll see if I play more Payback. Probably will do a little bit more, but definitely more Control. Definitely enjoying that quite a bit. And let's see.
I hate to rush you, but my stomach is not holding it together, so we need to wrap things up.
I was just gonna give a quick shout out to something since I didn't really have anything in particular, so I will give a quick shout out to Dragon Ball Z.
Awesome. Yeah, my stomach is like, hey, Jared, you got to go.
Podcast with a bucket under your bum?
Jesus Christ. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed, please go over to iTunes and leave us a review. It helps us out. Helps us move into the algorithm. On YouTube, search Controlled Interests. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Like the videos as well. That helps us. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, don't dislike it. Just you can leave the video, not our channel.
So you can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, continue to come back if you like. If
Twitter,
you don't like
at CTRLINT. That's Controlled Interests abbreviated. You can follow Dom at Dom's Oreos. You can follow Jordan at Melmodus. And you can follow me at Jerrad_. We'll catch you guys next week. See you guys later. Bye.